So our first speaker in this final section works within her company Velocity Partnership as a facilitator and coach with a diverse group of clients that extend across Canada, the US, the UK, and China. She received a Master of Science degree in Creativity and Change Leadership from the International Center for Studies in Creativity, where she also serves as an adjunct faculty member. As a mom of an 8-year-old amazing little guy and a proud world citizen, she works to maintain a vibrant and inclusive community through volunteering and advocacy. Fun fact about her, she recently built an extension on her deck, complete with lighting, cactus planters, the works, all by herself. Please welcome Marysia Czarski.
Thank you. So it was over 40 years ago, I finally got to step onto the ice in a cold arena in Ottawa, my hometown, and live into the dream to be just like my hero of the day, the great Ken Dryden, the goalie for the Montreal Canadiens. It may have been sooner, except that my parents didn't think it would be great for me, younger than 8 years old, to receive shots with big round hockey pucks coming at me. I know it's rather cliche that I'm a Canadian and I'm talking about hockey. However, as a kid and now, I played many sports. I played soccer, I played football, I played tennis. I was the first girl on the boys' basketball team in grade 6. I've run track, I've done triathlons, and today I am a 4 more, 3 more, 2 more aerobics instructor, and I teach spinning classes. In fact, it was because the Olympics were coming to Montreal in 1976 that my parents thought it would finally be a good idea for us to get a color TV to enjoy them. Sports brought my dad and me so much closer together as we experienced the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. In the words of the ABC Wild World of Sports commentator, Jim McKay, I always knew that sports and athleticism was teaching me a lot of life lessons, but it was probably in the last 15 years that I started to see how those transcended into my career as an entrepreneur and most recently as a creativity practitioner. So today I'm going to walk you through 6 of those and how they've applied to me in each area. The first one, review your game tapes and always raise your bar no matter how good you are. Consider Michael Jordan. 1984 into the early 2000s, he was the best player in basketball. In fact, he inspired the likes of LeBron James and Russell Westbrook. Now, what was less known about Jordan is that after many of his games, he'd go back and review his game tapes. And he wasn't looking for what was wrong. There was very little wrong with Jordan's game. Instead, he would look at how he could raise the bar, how he could be even more innovative. For me, I've often recorded my facilitations and sat with someone to look and see where I can do the same, raise the bar, get even better at what I'm doing. Additionally, if I get feedback in a facilitation and the client says you were great, while it feels good, I want to know more. I want to know what exactly it was. I want them to give me a play-by-play of the specifics so I can keep building upon that and getting better. And finally, I always ask for feedback in the middle of an engagement with a client, right in the middle, because I want to be able to impact that performance. And so my scoreboard usually looks like a 0 to 5, and I want to know what's going to get me to a 5 or take me even further so I can make that impact in the moment. Number 2, practice, practice, and be prepared. Consider that most athletes spend at least 2 to 3 times longer practicing than they do playing. Figure skaters are so intentional with their practice so that they can get back on the ice and do their performance and look like it's spontaneous or the first time that they're even doing it. For us, the numbers are probably looking a little bit opposite, where we spend way more time playing our game than actually practicing. So for me, I like to do mirror work, and I like to say it out loud. I want to hear my voice And when it's allowed and I can say it again and again, I really get to know my content, so I too can feel really comfortable and be able to walk out able to be confident with what I'm saying. Another form of practice is cross-training, and athletes know this well. So Usain Bolt, the great sprinter from Jamaica, actually spends 90 minutes in the weight room before he even steps out onto the running track. For me, interestingly enough, my cross-training has actually looked like teaching my fitness classes. Nothing like getting up at 6:45 a.m. to teach a class in front of 15 people, to be able to take that comfort of being in front of people again and again back into the classroom or to any kind of a training environment. Number 3, refuel your energy tank. Any great athlete knows that good nutrition, restoration, and sleep are absolutely critical to their performance. In fact, the New York Yankees, just in last year's spring training, canceled their morning practices so their players could sleep in. The Toronto Raptors basketball team recently canceled their shootout on game day for the same reason. Roger Federer, who's on this picture, took 6 months off last June after a rough 2015, so in his word, that he could rest and also reset his ideas about the game. During that time frame, he also completely reworked his backhand. And this weekend, he won the Masters in Shanghai and beat Rafael Nadal. And he's won 2 Grand Slams this year and is considered to be playing the best tennis of his life. All of you work incredibly hard, and I know at times you get burnt out, and we don't take the time we need to actually restore. So restoration, even if you're not working muscles the way an athlete does, can look like, and does for me, regular massage, chiropractics, osteopathy, anything that allows that body to restore itself. The other area is around vacation time. So 1 week isn't enough, quite frankly, if you're working really hard to completely restore yourself. And athletes have that sort of baked into the way their season works because they're off. That doesn't happen for us. So we've got to work really hard and be intentional around protecting that time and making sure that we don't have clients or colleagues working into our vacation time. So the boundaries are important. And speaking of boundaries, another area where I work very hard to be deliberate around this is when I'm leading a program in another city. Because what's more tempting than being in another city than to go out and enjoy it, stay up with your colleagues, drink a little later into the night? But I really work hard at getting to bed early so I can wake up. And for me, having a run first thing in the morning before I lead a program is really important. So all of that plays into it. Create a great team around you. This September, Sloane Stephens stood at center court at the US Open of Tennis. She was celebrating her win. What was even more amazing about that is that in January, she was watching the Australian Open of Tennis with a broken ankle on the TV. She was 235th in the year. So at center court, where the celebration was occurring, the commentator said, "Sloane, like, what makes you so great?" She didn't even hesitate. She said, "It's my team." She talked about the key players on her team, but she also mentioned her mom, and she mentioned the player in front of her, Madison Keys, which was actually the biggest surprise. That collaboration is important for her as a part of her team. Teams are critical, and it doesn't mean that your team just looks like the stats on the page. You've got to really look for that complementary team that works well for you. For me, when I'm building a team, I want to look at the people I most harmonize with, and quite frankly, I so much more enjoy co-facilitating than leading it and doing it by myself. So I always like to build a great team around me. Be present and mindful. Your ability to be in the moment, the here and now, and to listen openly and to see vividly is described as being present and mindful. When in this state, athletes report the game around them moving in slow motion. I find as a goaltender, when I'm in this space, I'm able to make saves. I have actually no idea how I made them. And more importantly, if a goal goes in the net, I'm so much more unlikely to beat myself up if I'm in that moment. Now, it doesn't just happen. You can't will yourself into being present and mindful. It takes some practice also. And so Kobe Bryant and LeBron James are known to do both meditation and yoga to get themselves into that space. Also, athletes can use visualization, so they think through the moment and really connect to their breath. Speaking of breath, I also work with a voice coach. What this voice coach has done, and she's a professional, is help me lower my breath down into my body. And you're going to see me now, I'm going to look like I'm a shortstop, because literally the work we do is about getting that breath low so that I can be present from the get-go when I walk into a facilitation, as opposed to it coming, say, 20, 30 minutes in. So I can just be in that moment. And mostly, I can really enjoy myself, which is a good thing. And finally, number 6. Celebrate your success. In my hometown of Toronto, the Maple Leafs hockey team haven't won a Stanley Cup in 49 years. The Chicago Cubs baseball team, up until last year, hadn't won the World Series for 108 years. Yet, with every time a player crossing home plate, the Cubs would celebrate. Every time the Leafs still score a goal, and last night against the Montreal Canadiens, they did it again, they celebrated. Celebration is fun, and as I learned on Friday in my pre-conference session, it lights up all of the parts of the brain. However, I think celebration needs to be more than just a verbal conversation or a verbal, hey, you did great. It needs to be physical. There's nothing like a big high five, and a big hoot and holler that comes deep from the belly, and a really loud hand clap. I have found that my clients, when they do something great, they kind of just want to move on. I'm like, no, let's stop and celebrate the moment. Give yourselves a really big hand. It's more natural in this community, but it's really an important part of what we do day in, day out. So I'd like to leave you with a quote from who we call the great one in Canada, Wayne Gretzky. He said, skate to where the puck is headed, not to where the puck has been. I hope what I shared with you today helps you get to wherever you're going on your creative journey. Thank you.